Is the liquidity crisis starting to ease on the retail side of silver? Well, this is one of the things we want to look at in today's video, as well as several other items in the news in the silver market. I wanted to start out today by showing where the market has gone. Right now it's Wednesday as I filmed this, February the 4th, at about 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. So while the stock market's about to close, there's still another hour left on the spot market of the silver and most of the commodity exchanges. And so right now, we've had a pretty good day in the silver market. We started out at $85.03. We've been as low as $83.23, as high as $92.32. And the last I checked, we were at about $87.39. And so we're a couple dollars up, a little bit more than that from the open today. So we've started to establish a little bit of a leveling out, perhaps, both in the volatility of the silver market and in the volume that's being traded in the futures market. And so I thought maybe this would be a good time to look a little bit at this volatility and just point out that while it is still historically high, it is starting to settle down from the last several days. Last Friday, of course, was the $45 drop that we had between the high and the low. We settled out at about $85, so we dropped over $30 for the day on Friday. On Monday, we had about a $17 range. We tested the low of Friday, but it did not stay below that point for very long, and it actually closed up well above that line. And then after that, yesterday, we had a higher low and a higher high from the previous day, and then today we've had so far a higher low and a higher high. And again, looks like we're gonna be closing at higher than we did yesterday. So we are starting to have a little bit of a progression upwards. These things don't tend to last very long, especially in this particular market, but at least we're starting to straighten out a little bit. And I think we can start looking at this low for Friday as a pretty good support line. Certainly if we drop down to $70 an ounce, I think that's going to be a firm support line. I'm not suggesting it won't go below that, but if it does and it goes below with conviction, high volume and several dollars, then we may be continuing to go down for a while. But right now, we're on an upward trajectory. Things are looking pretty good. I can't really say that we've got a high in this range right now because we haven't been able to establish it for more than a couple of days. If you want to use a temporary range for today as far as today's high, again, about $92, and that'll give you an idea where we're trading. But again, this is where we're at today. It does look like we're starting to level out, and that leveling out and calming down of the wild ranges is helping our local coin dealers. And I thought that was something that really would be good to look at today, because as recently as just a week ago, our local coin shops, our retail dealers, including the wholesalers and the refineries, were talking about a liquidity crisis that was probably something that wouldn't be solved for at least a month, if not more than that. And yet today, there's already reports coming out from a number of the smaller coin shops that they're having a hard time keeping inventory on hand. Such is their demand from their customers. And this is something that's brand new, really since last Friday afternoon. After the market took a drop, well, everybody that had been selling eased back on their selling, and those who had been waiting to buy started entering in at what was a much more attractive buy point. Because of that, we're already starting to see shortages in the 999 generic silver at some of the coin shops, as well as U.S. Eagles and some of the sovereigns. And this is very interesting because, again, they didn't think that was going to be something that would straighten out for a month to 6 weeks, if that. And there's already reports of local coin shops who have run out of their generic silver and of their Eagles. And so I find this very encouraging. I also think it's maybe a microcosm of just how wild this market has been. We have moves that would take normally years to make within just one day. And then we have problems that have been created all of a sudden alleviated in just a matter of a week. And so we're in a very fast-paced market. I think it's something that all of us, if we don't have to sell right now, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to hang on to what we have, and especially if our intent was just to stack silver anyway as a hedge against future problems. So it is starting to look a little bit more optimistic than it was, and certainly our local coin dealers are starting to breathe a sigh of relief. Now, as far as the liquidity crisis, there still is something of a liquidity crisis that's ongoing because our dealers are still offering so far below spot for most of the products that it doesn't make any sense to be selling your silver to the dealers, at least not the online dealers. The big guys have not really trusted the prices yet, and because of that, they're operating on quite a large commission spread. I watched a video by Silver Seeker. He had a conglomerate of 6 dealers that he contacted or looked at online, and these were the averages he was getting for the prices they were selling to the public for. For 90%, it was right around spot, so that's pretty good. For generic 999 silver, it was about $8 over spot, and the Eagles were about $15 over spot. So really high on the Eagles, and quite frankly, very high on the generic as well. As far though as what they would purchase it from you for, the 90%, the ones I found online, were running between $21 and $28 on the offer to buy from the public, below spot. So just an incredible range on that. For 90%, there still seems to be something of a liquidity problem with the 90%. The generic, even though a lot of the dealers are running out of it, they're still offering somewhere along the lines of about $14 to $16 below spot. So quite a difference on that. And then the Eagles are offering $7 to $10 below spot. So in each of those categories, all 3 of those categories actually, you're looking at a $20 plus difference between what they will buy it from you for and what they're willing to sell it to you for. The online dealers continuing to act as if there's a liquidity crisis. Again, they've been burned in the last few weeks, and so you can understand their caution, but it gives you an idea of what they're thinking anyway. Now, as far as the local coin shops, we're starting to see some much better deals. I was watching Silver Dragon's channel that interviews Harry's Coin Shop, and Harry was selling 90% this morning, if I saw his prices right, at about $5 below spot. And then his generic and Eagles were much closer to the national norms for the big guys, about $7 above spot to sell generic 999, and about $10 above spot on the Eagles. So he was giving people a break as compared to the online dealers. And then Vermilion in Florida is starting to advertise their prices again. They are currently selling 90%, just like Harry's Coin Shop is, at $5 below spot. They're selling generic 999 silver rounds at spot, and they're selling Eagles at only $3 over spot. So they've got some excellent prices right now on the retail side is for those who are really wanting to get these products. And then as far as what they will buy it for, they are $10 below spot for 90%, so they've just got a $5 range. That's not bad. They're $5 below spot for the 999, so they've got a $5 range on that since they're selling for spot on the 999. And then Vermilion is buying U.S. Eagles for the spot price, just selling it for $3 over, so an excellent spread on that. The point is that what we're seeing is the online dealers are still acting as if there's a liquidity crisis, but the smaller coin shops are coming much more in line with traditional commission spreads. They're still a ways off, and some of them are quite a ways off, But this will give you an idea if you're thinking about purchasing or if you have to sell. This will give you an idea of what the prices are that you can buy and sell for right now. So again, it does look promising on the liquidity crisis, especially when we talk about 999 silver, whether we're talking about sovereigns or just generic rounds. As far as the sterling silver, the refineries are still backed up. They're not taking that, and therefore most of the local coin shops don't want it either. They don't want your alloyed foreign coins. They don't have a market for it right now, and you can understand them not purchasing that. So there is still a liquidity crisis in that area. There are a few dealers that are buying these things, but look to get way below spot on that. The volume today on the COMEX exchange, the March contract, the last I looked was they had traded about 110,000 5,000 ounce contracts, so that's 550 million ounces, about 2/3 of the annual world mining supply, which has been typical for the last month or month and a half on the trading on the COMEX. So that's starting to settle down a little bit, and so that gives us some hope that maybe we're getting a little bit of normalcy return to this market. Now, as far as the prices, if you're concerned about the prices, just consider this. As recently as January the 14th, we were trading below the levels that we're trading at today. And so the prices that we have today, we've only experienced anything near this for a couple of weeks. And so we are still in pretty good condition. As a matter of fact, most people would say we're in excellent condition. And especially for those who just stack silver. And maybe this is a good point to give a little bit of a reason for why I do these videos. Obviously, I don't take sponsors. The reason that I do this is because my wife and I, when we first got married, found that by saving in physical silver, we were able to keep up with the pace of inflation. And when we got married in the early 1980s, inflation was pretty well out of hand. They had had to raise short-term interest rates to about 13 or 14%. As a matter of fact, they got up to about 18% for a while, and mortgages were about 13 or 14% for a 30-year mortgage. And a lot of those were adjustable rate at that. And so inflation was quite a bit different back then than it was in the subsequent years. But we kept on saving in silver. We didn't sell it unless we had to, but we did use it as an insurance policy. When I switched careers from being a real estate appraiser to a preacher, we took quite a difference in our salary on that switch. And so a lot of the silver and the gold that we had bought over the years as a real estate appraiser, we were able to sell, and that helped us to make ends meet until our salary came more in line with what a family of 5 needed. And so that was very helpful for us. A lot of people don't have things like that. And so I really like to encourage people, if they are going to save, to not just save in fiat currency or paper money that's just money because a government declares that it's money, but save in something that is fairly liquid, that you have a hope of maintaining at least the pace of inflation, and at times, such as we've seen in the last few years, vastly outpacing inflation. For example, when I was born, a gallon of gas cost about 25 cents, a silver quarter. And all the time my wife and I have been married, you could take that same silver quarter and you could sell it to a coin shop and get enough cash to buy a gallon of gas. And so it was a great savings vehicle for us as far as being a store of value. But again, it's been far more than that in recent months. As a matter of fact, silver quarter's probably got about $15 worth of silver, maybe a little bit more in it right now. Our gas right now in the panhandle of Texas is about 2.25, so you can get 6.5 gallons of gas right now for that silver quarter that used to buy 1 gallon of gas. And same thing with food and other items. It's just not only kept the pace with inflation, but it's outpaced inflation. It allowed us, because we saved in silver, to retire a few years earlier than we might normally have been able to retire. And so this was something that was very helpful to us. And so that's really my motivation in doing these videos. I know a lot of the people that are just starting out are looking for some information on how to invest in silver. And there's a lot of people that will give you a lot of information, but so many of them are selling the very product that they're recommending to you. Since I don't sell anything, and since I've done this for 45 years now, I've got a good idea of what typically works over a long period of time. And for us, just investing in small increments of physical silver, whether we're talking about sovereigns like the U.S. Eagle or the Canadian Maple Leaf, or just generic rounds like the Buffalo rounds that you see so many of today, or even 90% silver that has a way of holding its value and being able to be exchanged usually fairly easily. The last month and a half has been a little more difficult, but I think you'll find this is an anomaly. The idea for us was just a dollar cost average. It was our insurance policy. It was our savings account. And at times where we got the accumulation that we really needed for the future, we would actually trade a little bit back and forth in the physical silver. And in recent months, we've gotten more involved in silver stocks that look stable, that tend to mirror the physical silver market, but with much better liquidity and very low commissions as opposed to buying and selling physical silver. And so that's the reason I've been discussing these things. I think people need to understand that our economy is not stable right now. The U.S. dollar has lost 98% of its value since the Federal Reserve opened its doors in 1913. And so we really need something that can provide stability in your life that you can count on in case everything falls apart. But you also need some stability as far as just having something that's there in savings that you're not maybe as likely to dip into every time you're hungry for a pizza, but later on you might find that this is something that helps you out during some difficult times. And so that's one of the reasons I discuss accumulating silver just for an insurance purpose and for a savings purpose, but also if once you've done that and accomplished that, to maybe be able to trade it a little bit at a profit with a much smaller portion of your holdings or your fiat money that you like to use for that purpose. So anyway, that's my motivation on this. I really have been blessed by this. My wife and I have, and I think it might help others. And so that's why I try to provide the information that I do, and I hope that you find it helpful to your own circumstance. I don't recommend that anybody do what I did or have the same plan that I do, but I do recommend that everybody seriously consider not only where you are in your personal budget, but also where our nation is and where the world is as far as their financial difficulties. And I think that will help you to sit down and prayerfully and prudently make a plan for the future. And if that includes precious metals, then maybe this will give you a little bit of information as far as what options are out there for you. And that basically is all I really want to do on that, is to show you what some of the options are and how you can buy and sell some of these instruments and get the best value for the money that you're spending. Well, that's all I have for today. I appreciate your making it this far. If you have comments, I would certainly appreciate your adding them. They really have had a wealth of information. There's a lot of experienced people who have been making comments. I've learned from them, and I think you will as well. So if you have a few extra minutes, read those comments. I appreciate your watching today, and for those of you who have subscribed, I appreciate that as well. Thank you for watching today. I hope we'll see you again next time. God bless.